Welcome to True Crime Stories for English Learners, where real-life mysteries meet clear and simple English.
The Zodiac Killer. The letters that taunted the police. Fear in the Bay Area. A silent road. It was a cool July night in 1969. The roads around Vallejo, California were quiet, except for the sound of crickets and the soft hum of distant cars. A blue Chevrolet Corvair was parked near a lover's lane by Lake Herman Road. Inside, two young people were talking, unaware that someone was watching them from the darkness. The man in the shadows waited, motionless. He had done this before. The watching, the waiting, the planning. When he finally moved closer, the headlights of another car briefly revealed a figure wearing dark clothes and carrying a flashlight. Moments later, the peace of the night was shattered by gunfire. Two people were left dead. And what seemed like a random act of violence was only the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt California for years. A city on edge. When police arrived at the scene, they found almost no clues. The killer had vanished. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no motive. It was the kind of crime that terrified everyone because it could happen anywhere to anyone. At first, the case received limited attention. But a few weeks later, something strange happened. 3 newspapers in San Francisco each received an identical letter. Each letter began the same way. Dear editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman and the girl last July 4th. The letters included details that only the killer could know. The position of the bodies, the type of ammunition, even the make of the gun. But that wasn't the strangest part. Attached to each letter was a cipher, a secret code made up of strange symbols and letters. The writer claimed the code contained his identity. If you crack it, he wrote, you will have me. The birth of a name, Zodiac. When reporters published the letters, California changed overnight. People bought newspapers just to see if the killer had written again. Police departments were flooded with calls from frightened citizens. And then came the second letter. It began with a chilling line. This is the Zodiac speaking. From that moment, he had a name, the Zodiac Killer. He created his own identity, his own symbol, a circle with a cross through it, and even his own voice. He wasn't just killing, he was performing. The Zodiac seemed to enjoy the fear he caused. He wrote as if he were playing a game, taunting the police, teasing the media, and controlling the narrative. The first cipher, cracked by civilians. The first code, known as the 408 cipher, was published by the newspapers. The killer demanded they print it on the front page or he would go on a killing rampage. Within a few days, a married couple, Donald and Betty Harden, amateur code breakers, managed to solve it. The message was chilling. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. The message ended with, the best part is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. There was no name, no clue to his identity, only the dark logic of someone who saw murder as a game. The Bay Area holds its breath. Over the next months, panic spread across Northern California. Couples stopped parking in quiet places. Parents warned their children not to go out at night. And every new murder brought one question. Was this the Zodiac again? Detectives from Vallejo, San Francisco, and Napa County worked together, something rare in those days. But the killer stayed ahead of them. He sent more letters, more threats, and more ciphers. Each one signed with the same symbol, the crosshair-like circle, and the same words. This is the Zodiac speaking. He seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. A pattern of fear. The Zodiac wasn't just killing, he was communicating. That made him different from most criminals. He wanted an audience, and the media gave him exactly what he wanted. Every newspaper printed his words. Every TV channel discussed his letters. Every citizen in the Bay Area was talking about him. He had turned fear into fame. The Lake Berryessa attack. On September 27, 1969, two college students, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, were relaxing by the lake near Napa when a man approached them. He wore a strange hood, black, with a white cross-circle symbol on his chest. He carried a gun and a knife. The man said he was an escaped convict who needed money and a car. But after tying the couple up, he pulled out a knife and attacked them. Cecilia was stabbed 10 times. Brian survived, though badly injured. Before leaving, the attacker drew the Zodiac symbol on their car door and wrote the dates of his previous murders, along with the word "by knife." The call. Less than an hour later, a calm male voice called the Napa County Sheriff's Office. "I want to report a murder," the caller said. "No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of Park headquarters. I'm the one who did it." Then he hung up. The phone was traced to a booth near the sheriff's office, but the killer was gone. The Hunt for a Ghost. San Francisco, 1969, the city in fear. By late 1969, the Zodiac had turned the San Francisco Bay Area into a landscape of anxiety. The newspapers printed every new letter, and every word was studied like a riddle from the devil himself. Reporters received more messages, taunting, cruel, playful. Sometimes he joked about the police. Sometimes he threatened children. Sometimes he just wanted attention. He wasn't hiding completely. He was communicating, constantly, but from where, no one knew. The Paul Stine murder. On the night of October 11, 1969, in the quiet neighborhood of Presidio Heights, San Francisco, a taxi driver named Paul Stine picked up a fare. The man asked to be taken to Cherry Street. When the taxi stopped, the passenger shot the driver once in the head. This time, something new happened. Witnesses saw the killer. 3 teenagers across the street looked out their window and saw a man wiping the taxi with a cloth, as if cleaning fingerprints. He was calm, deliberate, unhurried. The witnesses described him as a white male, about 35 to 45 years old, heavy-set, wearing glasses. A police car even drove past him, but because of a communication error, the officers were told to look for a black suspect. The man walked right past them and disappeared into the park. Minutes later, a radio call confirmed the killer was white, but it was too late. The letter with the shirt. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received a new Zodiac letter. This one included a piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt, proof that he was the killer. The letter began, as always, "This is the Zodiac speaking." He mocked the police for missing him in the park and bragged that he had spoken to officers just minutes after the murder. He also threatened to shoot school buses full of children, sending the city into full panic mode. Parents refused to send their kids to school. Police cars followed buses every morning. The Zodiac had become a terrorist, and his words were his weapon. The media circus. The Zodiac's relationship with the media became part of the story. He needed the newspapers, and they needed him. Every letter guaranteed headlines, and every headline fed his ego. Television hosts debated whether to stop publishing his messages, but each time they did, a new threat arrived. He even demanded that his symbol, the cross within a circle, be worn by everyone in San Francisco, or he would attack again. Of course, no one obeyed, but his words had already done their job. People were terrified. The Strange Interview. In October 1969, a famous TV show hosted by Jim Dunbar received a phone call live on air. The caller claimed to be the Zodiac. He spoke in a strange, low voice, calm but cold. "I don't want to go to the gas chamber," he said. Psychiatrist Dr. Melvin Belli spoke to him, trying to convince him to surrender. But soon it became clear that the caller was not the real Zodiac, just an unstable man craving attention. Still, the fact that everyone believed it could be him showed how deep the fear ran. The letters continue. Through 1970 and 1971, the letters kept coming, sometimes months apart, sometimes weeks. Each one contained a mix of coded messages, sarcasm, and threats. He called police pigs. He complained about people who copied his style. He bragged that he had killed 37 people, though no one could prove it. The strange thing was that the murder stopped, but the letters didn't. It was as if the killer had moved from physical violence to psychological control. The ciphers that remained unsolved. The Zodiac's second code, the 340 cipher, puzzled experts for over 50 years. It contained 63 lines of symbols, more complex than the first. The FBI, CIA, and professional cryptographers all tried to solve it and failed. It wasn't until 2020, decades later, that a team of codebreakers from the US, Belgium, and Australia finally cracked it. The decoded message read, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Once again, there was no name, no location, only arrogance and distance. He remained a ghost in plain sight. The suspects. Over the years, police investigated hundreds of men, from teachers to mechanics to former soldiers. The most famous was Arthur Lee Allen, a man from Vallejo who matched the description, had a strange fascination with codes, and owned similar weapons. But there was no direct proof, no fingerprints, no DNA, no confession. When Allen died in 1992, the mystery died with him, or so it seemed. A killer who loved power. What made the Zodiac so terrifying wasn't the number of his victims. It was his control over fear. He wrote like a showman, laughed at authority, and played with the idea of identity. He made people question what was real. Was he one man or many? Was he still alive? Was he watching? He once wrote, "I am waiting for a good movie about me. Who will play me?" He turned murder into mythology.
The legacy of a shadow. The silence after the fear. By 1971, the Zodiac's letters had become less frequent, and then, suddenly, they stopped. No more cryptic symbols, no more threats, no more promises of chaos. For a while, California began to breathe again. But even in the silence, people looked over their shoulders. They read the newspapers differently. They still expected another letter, another killing, another voice from the dark. The Zodiac had created something more powerful than terror. He had created uncertainty.
The copycats. After the letters stopped, the police received dozens of new messages claiming to be from the Zodiac. Most were fakes, written by attention seekers or pranksters. But the damage was done. The name Zodiac had become a symbol, a word that meant mystery, danger, and unsolved evil. Detectives had to separate fact from fantasy. Every new crime was checked for patterns, codes, or the famous circle-cross symbol. Each time, it led to nothing. The real Zodiac was either dead, imprisoned for another crime, or simply finished. He had vanished, leaving behind chaos and legend. The rise of the myth. As the years passed, the Zodiac case became part of American culture. Books, TV shows, and documentaries explored every possible theory. Writers studied his letters like sacred texts. Amateur detectives built entire lives around decoding his secrets. In 1971, Robert Graysmith, a cartoonist for the San Francisco Chronicle, became obsessed with the case. He spent years collecting evidence, comparing handwriting, and interviewing witnesses. His work later became the basis for the famous 2007 film Zodiac, directed by David Fincher. The movie captured not only the fear of the crimes, but also the madness of obsession. It showed how the search for truth can consume a person's entire life. The Codebreaker's victory. In December 2020, more than 50 years after the first cipher appeared, 3 amateur codebreakers finally solved the 340 cipher. They used modern computer algorithms and logic to find patterns that no one in 1969 could see. When the message was revealed, it didn't expose a name. It only confirmed one thing. The Zodiac had never stopped laughing at his hunters. "That wasn't me on the TV show," the message said. "I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me." Even in death, if he was dead, he was still playing his game.
The forensic era. Modern technology changed everything. DNA databases, fingerprint systems, and digital analysis gave detectives new tools. They retested the stamps and envelopes from the Zodiac's letters, hoping to find saliva or skin cells. In 2018, the arrest of the Golden State Killer, thanks to genetic genealogy, gave new hope. If DNA could solve one of California's great mysteries, maybe it could solve another. But so far, every Zodiac sample has been too contaminated or incomplete to confirm a match. The case remains officially open. The human side of fear. The Zodiac story isn't only about crime. It's about how fear spreads through society, through rumors, through headlines, through imagination.
For months, ordinary people changed their lives because of one man's words. They looked for meaning in every symbol, every letter, every coincidence. Even today, people online still debate who he was, arguing in forums, making documentaries, posting theories on Reddit. The Zodiac doesn't exist as a person anymore. He exists as a mirror, reflecting our need to understand the darkness. The endless search. From time to time, someone new claims they've solved the case. A new suspect, a new handwriting match, a new photo comparison. But nothing ever holds up under real evidence. One retired detective once said, "The Zodiac lives forever because we made him immortal." Maybe that's true. Maybe he became more than a man, a story, a warning, a fascination. The perfect crime is not the one that hides the killer. It's the one that never lets us stop looking. Closing reflection. The Zodiac's legacy is not only written in blood, but in the evolution of investigation itself. He forced police to cooperate across counties. He pushed media to question their role in amplifying evil. And he taught the world how much power words can have when mixed with fear. He never revealed his real name, but in some strange way, he never needed to. The name Zodiac became eternal, written in ink, mystery, and silence. Another dark chapter closed, but the mystery of human nature continues. Thanks for listening to True Crime Stories for English Learners. Don't forget to subscribe and join me next time for another real story that's stranger than fiction.